Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duckbricks. I'm Chris, and let's dive into a review of one of my most anticipated LEGO Ninjago mechs yet. This is Kai's Ninja Climber mech. Now this is really exciting for me personally because I got a chance to see it early last September in LEGO headquarters in Billund, Denmark, and I was absolutely blown away by the design. You can make it stand on one foot, you actually have full-on articulation with the bionicle piston elements. It's a really cool build, and I cannot wait to dive into this mech build because for me as a Bionicle fan, it reminds me of a lot of the Titan sets that we got from Bionicle, right down to using these same exact pieces they introduced in 2006 to give the legs actual articulation. This is super cool. Let's go ahead and dive into this brand new LEGO Ninjago mech right now. I hope you enjoy the review. Alright, so this is set number 71812, Kai's Ninja Climber mech. It retails for $70 US, 70 euros or 60 British pounds, and comes with 623 pieces, as well as 4 minifigures, one of which is exclusive to the set, and technically the other one of which is kind of exclusive given that she has this wing pack, but really that's the only special thing about the character itself. It also includes Kai and Wildfire, who do appear in some of the other sets, whereas Jordana here is unique with the special wing configuration. This is to date one of the most dynamic Ninjago mechs they have done, and in some ways one of the most posable, and in other ways surprisingly less posable than its peers. And there's a reason why. In the Designer Insight series that Li Chi Wing, the designer of the set, aka City Sun Creation, has been posting on Instagram, he specifically mentioned that they basically have a quota on how many articulation points they are allowed to include in sets. Include any more articulation points and kids get confused. It surfaces during user testing. When they put the set in a room full of a ton of kids and let's say give it elbows or give it knees, kids get very confused and they don't really know how to pose them, and they get frustrated that angles are bent in weird positions, and because of that, given that this already has 4 arms and specialized ankle articulation thanks to the Bionicle hydraulic piece being used in this configuration for the first time in a very long time, they unfortunately had to reduce the amount of articulation elsewhere on the model, particularly in the elbows here. There are no knees, which is kind of to be expected, but they did have to make sure there were no knees, and the no elbows is the really unfortunate thing. Despite that though, as you can see, you can still get it into very, very dynamic poses, and before it topples over there, I'm going to set it down, but that pose was directly inspired by a post on the designer's Instagram, which I've also linked in the description below in case you're curious about checking out the Designer Insight. It is one of the most interesting accounts because he goes into the development of pretty much every single set that he works on in great detail, so I highly recommend that if you're curious about the development process of sets like these and some of the other sets in the wave, you check out that series of Instagram posts. Let's get this back though to a pretty standard pose for reviewing, and let's just get right into the review here. Now, Kai's Ninja Climber mech is one of the most interesting Ninjago mechs we've gotten in a long time. It's not quite an official Kai's Titan mech, which we still technically haven't really gotten. I mean, you can kind of count the Ninjago movie one, but this is just kind of a separate standalone thing on its own, and the way that this was built is that this was truly designed for rigorous play. Now, the main feature of the set is that, well, this is a climbing type of vehicle, and what I mean by that is that you literally can use it to grapple and climb. Now, the really cool thing is that once you detach one of these pieces here for the hooks, let me just get that detached there, you can actually pick it up by the string. I'm just holding it by the hook itself, literally just hold it by the hook, and the entire mech just dangles. And this works so well. Like, I'm being really rough with it. I'm being very rough with the string, and this is staying. Like, this, nothing is breaking off of this. It is remarkably sturdy. Like, you could actually drop this, and the designer said that while testing this set, they had to drop it from many flights, and most of the pieces stay on, and I believe that. Like, I am actively trying to make it break, and it's not breaking. So that is a feat of engineering, and to me, that is easily the most interesting thing about the mech is just how sturdy it is. You can whip this around, you can dangle it in every sort of way, and it stays together. So first of all, huge kudos to the designer for pulling that off. Like, that is genuinely a very, I think it's like not even obvious how hard of an engineering problem that is. Like, you might be seeing it and being like, okay, well, yeah, it can dangle from a string, so what? But to keep both ends of that string very attached and the entire mech also fully attached when you're actually using it to play and climb, that is really, really impressive. So I just want to call that out as the main play feature of the set. Unfortunately, the box art and packaging doesn't really even advertise this. Like, I wouldn't have even guessed that you could even do that if I didn't see this set early in September and the designer literally told me, he was like, hey, pick it up by this. You know, like, I feel like that's something that you advertise. That's like the selling point to this mech, but it is what it is. It's just really cool that it's featured in there. Now, for the rest of the mech, we're going to start off with articulation, kind of similar to how I handle a lot of my other Bionicle and LEGO reviews. Now, the articulation is really cool for this because, as I mentioned, you've brought back that kind of piston articulation that was used in the Bionicle 2006 Titans. This piece never went away. It was used in sets from pretty much every year from 2006 up till now, but it wasn't ever used for this kind of ankle articulation. Hero Factory Witch Doctor was the last time they actually used these pieces for ankle articulation, and it is very, very cool to actually get that in a set like this. Now, yes, in terms of other articulation, it's using these hinge pieces that are, I guess, about like 2 years old now, which are really good. They're really perfect for mechs that you can really just play around with them. No knees, but I'm gonna be honest, like, I'm not convinced that this really needed knees per se. I mean, as you can see here, this is probably about of a crazy as walking, like, of a walking pose that I would want to get for a mech like this, and it doesn't need knees to accomplish that. Like, I'm not even sure if giving it knees right here would actually be able to give it that many more dynamic poses. You can basically achieve almost every pose you want just due to the strength of the ankles themselves. And I am very, very happy about that. That makes me very happy because the ankles work really, really well. Now, moving upwards to the articulation for the rest of the mech itself, you can move the arms back and forth and up and down based on these ratchet configurations, which are very strong. Big miss on no elbows. I get it. Don't get me wrong, I get it. I guarantee, I'm almost certain there was a version of this set that had elbows, and they brought it to playtesting, and some kid was like, why is it bending backwards? Or like, why are there so many different things I have to move around? Like, they literally said, based on child feedback, they remove articulation points if they're confusing for kids. So the elbows were deemed too confusing, which, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Like, there's already a lot of things going on with the build, but I really wish it had elbows because I feel like that would have improved the posing of this a ton, because right now, it's just using that locked elbow piece, which is a little unfortunate for a mech of this size. The good thing, though, is that, well, it is LEGO after all, so you can literally just change it out if you want to. This is probably, again, a very easy fix. Just put like a little ratchet joint in there. You can twist the elbow that way, so you can very easily mod it if you want, but it would have been nice to actually get those pieces in the set because, again, this is a pretty large set. It's fairly advanced, and it just is a bit of a miss for me that it doesn't have elbows. However, it does make up for it by the hands being on mixel joints. I'm very happy that the hands are on mixel joints because I feel like if they weren't, this would be much, much worse to pose. Like, imagine if the hands were fixed here and this was all you could do with the hands. Like, that would be unfortunate. But now you can actually move the hands around, so it's not that bad. Like, you know, they kind of act as elbows of their own given how large the hands are, so it's definitely something that I feel like is, okay, that's an acceptable compromise. Now, moving onwards to the back of the model itself, you have these additional arm pieces, and these are really interesting because they're mounted on the same exact ratchet joints as the rest of the limbs. You can really bend them back and forth and kind of cause them to really have a very dynamic sense of articulation for a mech like this. You can swing them forwards and backwards from the back itself, and while we're here, I do want to point out that mechanical detail, kind of almost showing a piston built into the back of the spine, is very, very cool. It is really giving me the Bionicle vibes here. Now, of course, you can get this into all sorts of crazy poses, and yeah, you can move the head as well. So one really cool thing that I love to do with this is that if you raise up one of the arms here, you can actually lower this other arm, and it almost kind of feels like, it's like, oh, okay, well, this is the upper arm now, and now this is the lower arm. Like, there's so many interesting things that you can do with this set by just posing it around, and it's probably, in my experience, one of the most fun mechs to pose. Because it's so sturdy, you don't really have to worry about things falling off as you pose it. Normally, if people have seen my videos, even with Bionicle, I'm usually pretty careful. Like, I'll be like, oh, well, let's just like try to keep it in a neutral pose because I'm worried pieces are gonna fall off or it's not gonna be stable or it's gonna fall over. But that's not the case here. This is genuinely a joy to pose. Like, look at this. That's like a fire pose right there. And you can move this down, move this up here, and really get it like that. Or you can swing both of the extra arms down, and you can have kind of like a reveal, where you have like a General Kenobi style reveal, where you've got the two swords like this, General Roz, and then move the arms upwards. That's just so much fun. There's so many fun things that you can do with this mech in terms of posability, and even the hands on the ends of these upper arms also are mounted on mixel joints, which really give it a very unique quality when you're posing it around. Unfortunately, the string feature is only featured on one of the two arms, and that actually does feel like a bit of a miss to me, because I think it would have been really cool to, say, like, deploy both strings at once and have it hanging from both hooks, or maybe like deploying one at a time, where you've got like this one flying off, swinging up the cliff, and then you deploy the other one as you're rappelling up here. So I think that would have been really nice, but maybe that was just a budgetary thing where they only could really factor it into one of these extra arms. Thankfully though, they're pretty congruent, like it doesn't really throw it off that much, and if you want to wrap the string to make it less obvious, there are places where you can actually wrap the string a little bit unofficially, but you can kind of just wrap it around these two hook elements on the top here, and then the string is just all tucked away, and you don't need to worry about it getting in the way of anything, because you do have these almost like grapple charges up there, which you can use to actually fire the grapple itself, and keep that string tucked away for posing. So here, you can see that the string is just not even dangling at all during these poses, really making it have that congruent look and feel. Now, this is, again, one of the most posable and fun mechs to play with, but the detail and color scheme is really great as well, and I actually really like the way that this is done. It almost feels like it was a mix between a Kai and a Wildfire mech, and I did ask the designers, and they said at one point they did consider making it a Wildfire mech, but they figured that Kai would sell better, which is probably right, but it would be cool to get a Wildfire focus set. But one of the really interesting visual inspirations of the set itself is that they were really trying to mimic like a monkey when you have the set, and that's because when they were thinking of, well, what animals are good climbers, you immediately think of a monkey, and I feel like that really translates well into this set. It feels almost like a Lost Monkey Kid set, where you've got the large hands, like almost like the comically large hands up at the top here, the hooks on the top, and of course right here you've got very, very skinny joints here, like skinny elbows, skinny lower legs, but then these really large legs and these really large feet and really large hands. And I really like that because it has a very distinct visual identity compared to a lot of the other mechs that we've gotten. It feels super unique, and it feels like it's its own thing, especially with the forearms. You can remove the swords, you can even put like one of the swords upside down if you want to, which is a nice little touch that I had kind of in the thumbnail of this video to really showcase that movement. Man, I really wanted to bend that elbow there. That's unfortunate. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you can do with posing it around, and I feel like this is just so much fun to play with. Yes, people are complaining about the articulation. I know not everybody is 100% sold on it like I am, but here's the thing. I will admit my bias here. I love mechs. I love Bionicle, I love LEGO large action figures, and this feels like a modern day Bionicle to me. Mostly also because these pieces are literally supposed to be the modern day equivalent of the Tawamari Motoro hooks. They actually said that while testing the set, before these pieces were developed, they literally used those old pieces just to test the functionality and to explain what they were trying to get across with the hook pieces like these. So that's just another reason for me to love it. The designer is a Bionicle fan, and it shows, and I'm really, really happy with the set itself. The only minor thing that I will say is that it is actually kind of annoying to get Kai in there. You have to remove all the accessories, and then you kind of have to really squeeze him in. Like, it's almost like he doesn't want to go in. You have to like move the hands down a little bit, and you kind of like squeeze him in, and then he fits in, but I feel like there maybe was a better way to actually have him be mounted to be piloting the mech itself. It's not that big of a deal, it's not bad, but just something I do want to point out. But otherwise, this is a modern Bionicle set. For fans of LEGO Exoforce, like, this is what Exoforce would be today. Everyone asking for Exoforce to come back, I mean, it's Ninjago. Like, Ninjago is literally Exoforce at this point, given all the mechs that we get. And then you get more variety too, right? Like, with Exoforce, you got a million mechs, and then you maybe got like one Shriner Pagoda. With Ninjago, you get a million mechs, but you also get a million other things as well. So I really do like LEGO's modern approach to doing sets like these. I'm a big fan of this set, and I feel like the price is high, but kind of worth it. I don't know. I mean, I'm more than willing to call out a set if it is overpriced or if it is expensive, but this feels pretty worth it to me in terms of what you get out of it. It is legitimately so much fun to pose and play with, and you can get this in insane poses. Like, you can have this just be swinging all around. Like, standing on one foot is surprisingly very easy for this set because it has those dual joints, because it has that like extra special articulation for the ankles, and that just adds so much to the set itself. That's pretty much all I have to say about the build of the set, and now we can take a look at the minifigures. I'll be doing a dedicated video showcasing the individual Ninjago minifigures, so I'm not going to be dwelling on them for too long, but I do just want to give my quick thoughts on the climber suits, much like I've said in pretty much every other video that features them. I love the suits. They're really good, except you can't move their heads, and that is a big bummer. The armor pieces, dual molded, are probably some of the coolest armor pieces we have ever gotten from Ninjago. Like, these are wild. But if only they did not mold the mask in there as well, so you could actually turn the head. I don't know if this is as big of a problem for everyone else as it is for me, but for me, like, that's almost a deal breaker because I love taking photos of my minifigures and posing them up in interesting locations. I'm literally going to Japan tomorrow to be able to bring these minifigures and take cool pictures of them around the pagodas and temples. But I am limited because I can't turn the heads, and that is so unfortunate. I really wish there was a way to turn the heads. That is a big disappointment for me. It is what it is, but I just wish that you could turn the heads. Jay, however, is exclusive to the set, and I feel like he is one of the best climber suit ninja. The dark blue and gold is a beautiful color scheme, reminds me of Bionicle Teryx. If only this upper head was also dark blue, I think that would have been really nice, but all in all, it's a great looking suit. We'll spend much more time looking at these minifigures in my minifigure specific video, but overall, pretty happy with this design. Just wish he could turn the head. Wildfire gets a brand new hairpiece and a new suit, which is kind of funny how she got a new suit before Sora and Aaron did, but it's a good one. I really do like how they've continued to evolve the look and feel of the character. This new hairpiece is really great, and I like how they're actually giving her her own identity with that specialized hairpiece instead of just reusing the existing Monkey Kid one, and it just looks good. Having the armor in there is a nice touch as well. Lastly, for the Wolf Mask faction, we have Jordana, who is unique in this set due to the fact that she has this wing glider, which is alright. It's not the most interesting thing, but it's a nice little add-on to have. Now, what I really do like is this new dual-molded blood sword mold, which has this dual-molded gunmetal gray and transparent red detailing to it. It's a beautiful piece. I love the design of it, and I think it's just another one of Ninjago's amazing villain weapons. And with that, we've about summed up my thoughts on Kai's Ninja Climber Mech. Definitely one of the ones that has garnered a lot of controversy online because people are complaining about the articulation, to the point where even the designer has had to explain why it has less articulation in certain aspects versus others. An explanation I do understand, but it is something that I wish that maybe in the future LEGO would be a little bit more lenient and just be willing to give us a bit more articulation. But again, it is LEGO, so the beauty of it is that you can actually just add in your own. That's all for this review. I hope you enjoyed our look at Kai's Ninja Climber Mech, and I hope you enjoyed this series of brand new Ninjago reviews. Alright, and with that, we have summed up our look at Kai's Climber Mech. I hope you enjoyed this review. Thank you so much for tuning in to Duckbricks. Be sure to like and subscribe for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming away very soon. And bye for now.